Okay, boys, so here we are. And let me throw the essential question up for you. The essential question is new to us. And this will just help guide us as we work on our projects. What we're doing right now the next couple days, we're just going to work on our first little mini project, and it's our digital citizenship pledge, which is right behind us. And this is our question. How do we oops, a little boo-boo there.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's make it a little bigger so we can...
Whoa.
Alright. JR, you want to read that for us?
How do we create a positive online community?
Ooh, what do you think that means, JR?
I think it means, like, how would we make a positive online community? And an online community would kind of be like a page where everybody can, like, add something to it and tell stuff about them.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's part of the community, is explaining to people who you are so people can understand you, and
like,
you can understand them.
People that you might not see.
Right? Exactly. You don't see people online. True.
But, like, you can meet people from maybe different countries or different, maybe even different continents.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. And that's something that we'll learn quite a bit about. So let me just ask you a couple questions. Let's look at one thing. Let's look at our first. Let's look at a couple vocab. Terms to know. First one. Community. Alright, we're talking about online communities. Let's talk, what is a community? Well, there's many forms of community.
Yeah.
It's really a sense of belonging. You have communities at home. You could even call your household a community. That's your family. We have a community here at Jameson School, a community of learners, educators. We also have communities within our classrooms. So certain communities have different values and different ways of operating, expectations. They have procedures. There's rules. In the community of Old Orchard Beach, we have laws. We have people who help run the town, that make decisions for our town, both when it comes to money and economics, to how we clean the streets, to how we control people, and not really control people, but make sure people are acting responsible members of the community. So let's just start to think about this. What are some communities that you are a part of? I just gave you a couple of examples, didn't I? Are there any other communities that you can think of that you're a part of?
Your home.
What'd you say, Daniel?
Your home.
Okay, your home. Explain a little further. How would you belong to that community? What are some things that you do around the house that help you contribute?
To learn.
Let me give you an example. You might have a set of chores, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have chores at home?
Yeah.
That would be an example of contributing to your home community. What else? What happens? What do your parents do?
I mean, what I can do.
What do you do? What do your parents? Why don't you think? Julian, you got a good one for that, for home? What are some of the jobs at home? Start thinking, Daniel, and also listen to what we're saying here.
One of the jobs at home is for chores. It is washing the dishes.
Right. Okay. You wash the dishes. Who does the cooking?
Your mom.
Mom does the cooking. Okay. Sometimes Dad does the cooking, right? Does Dad go on the grill? My dad's a grill man at home.
Oh, yeah.
My dad does the grill. My mom does all the other stuff. And as I got older, I was able to help out. But one of my jobs was to set the table and to clear the table and do the dishes like you.
My dad is a
But what happens when all three people are working together?
Community.
That's a community. A community of people collaborate, communicate, and they work together to do certain things. That's a great example. What else? Another example of a community. You got one, JR?
Well, community, there is one big community in every continent. Lots of communities.
Right. Can you give me a specific example of a community that you are a part of?
Well, I'm a part of a community of the United States of America.
You are part of the United States of America. There's one big country, isn't it?
Ocean Beach. I'm a part of that community, and I'm a part of my home.
Okay. You're part of your home. Let's talk about one. Are you in any are you in any sports groups or teams?
Ooh.
Well, I used to a lot
You
of
are?
times.
I'm in baseball.
Okay, good. I'm gonna jump to Daniel right now because I told him I'd jump back when he got one. You're a part of what?
Baseball.
Baseball. How does the baseball community work? You have the players. Who else do you have?
The teams.
The teams. True. Who else helps you out?
I know. Coach.
The coach. If you didn't have the coach, would you learn how to play?
No.
Would you be able to go out there? If you didn't have the umpires, would you be able to have games?
No.
If you didn't have the people working in the snack shack to sell those things, what do? They sell the food to make money to pay for the umpires. You know that's what they do that for. And people volunteer their time. I know Mrs. O. She works here at Jameson.
Yeah.
She donates a lot of time to Little League, and she does it because she loves the Old Beach community. So that's what it's about, is giving back to your community, making sure you get a good experience. Because being part of a team is all about learning to work together, working to communicate, working to collaborate, setting goals as a team.
Yeah.
Winning and losing as a team. You don't win every game, do you? And you learn valuable lessons when you lose as a team. So those are all things as being a part of a community. Awesome. Let's move on. Next term. We have community. I'm just going to throw this in bold and underline it. And let's look. This is one. This is called, who can read that for me?
Expectation.
Expectation. Ooh, let's talk about expectations because I showed you our digital citizenship pledge up here. And some of the things that we're going to pledge to do: protect our own and others' private information online, stand up to cyberbullying, respect each other's ideas or opinions, give proper credit when we use each other's work, communicate responsibly and kindly with one another. We have expectations in this classroom, don't we? An expectation is something that we discuss together. It's how we plan to work together and be respectful of each other and what we plan to do. When we work together in this group, we'll have expectations. People have jobs. We also expect to treat each other in these ways right here. So when we make a pledge, I expect you, the members of the group, to honor those. So we'll talk further about the pledge up here. And notice that a lot of the pledge is empty, those pink spots, because it's not done yet. It's not done yet. We need your input. Okay? So, what are some expectations? That would be my question. I'm going to type it here. Can you guys read with me?
What are some expectations we have?
What are some expectations that we have for
Everybody together.
Being
Part
of our
classroom community.
So let's talk about that. Let's really talk about what it belongs to be part of a classroom community, because that's what we have right here. We have a small little community in here. It's us four, isn't it? Okay, but let's kind of talk about your classrooms. Let's make a connection to your classroom and see how those types of things will carry into what we do with our projects in here. Okay, so what are some different roles that you have in your classrooms? How can you belong to a classroom community? Julian?
At the end of the day, pass out the red folders.
Yeah, okay, very good. People have jobs. You pass out the red folders. Are there other jobs that you have in your classrooms?
I don't actually pass them.
One at a time. We gotta have raised hands. JR?
in in my classroom, like today, sometimes kids at the end of the month, like sometimes their parents forget to add up their minutes with like the reading log. So then they just tell my teacher, then my teacher just says, Jamie, can you come help out and do this for me? And I just say yes.
So Mrs. Shaw has you come and do some counting. I know that Mrs. Elsmiller has a lot of classrooms. Can you tell me what Mrs. Elsmiller does on her board for her community? Doesn't she have a set of things, a list of every day that people do?
He has Mrs. White.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I do.
She has a list. She has like.
No, I'm talking to
+1
Daniel.
people.
Sorry.
She has +1 people, like when they do the right thing.
Okay, what are some of the jobs that people have on that list of things to do in her classroom?
I'm purple folders.
Your purple folders.
Yeah.
What else?
Quinn is purple folders with me. Alexis is mailbox.
Someone does mailbox.
Yeah. There's a bunch.
There's a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that sometimes
Door
people pick up
holder?
certain things. Sometimes people hold doors. Sometimes people watch the clock and make sure that the teacher's on time. There's a lot of different things that you can do in your community, but we also do other things like treat each other kindly. We're respectful.
Mm-hmm.
We follow rules. We're honest. We're safe. Huh, interesting. Those are the things we do as a whole school, but we also do that in our classroom, don't we? And we also think of those things when we're everywhere when we're everywhere throughout the school. Nice. Lastly, before we finish up, we have about a couple minutes left. So if we're thinking about these things, about being safe, being honest, being respectful, following procedures, and if we're thinking about having certain jobs in our classroom communities, then I ask you this question.
Why do we want
Let's scroll down a little bit so we can see this.
Why do we want
our community
to have
these
these
kinds
kinds
of behavior?
expectations?
One at a time. So what I really want you to do is kind of reflect upon how expectations let us know how to interact, how to work, and how to get along with one another. So without guidelines like these, people might find it difficult to be part of a community. That's what I'm trying to get at. Does that make sense? Let me kind of say that again. So I really want you to start to think about and reflect on how expectations, they let us know how we're supposed to interact, work, and get along with each other. Okay? And if we don't have these types of things, guys, if we don't have rules, like our school rules and expectations, and it even says it right there, classroom expectations at the back of my room. Those are expected behaviors. I expect everybody to do those things. And we talked about all those together. So, we expect that. I don't only expect that. We expect that of each other.
Everyone does.
Right. So, if we don't have these guidelines, people might find it difficult to have a good spirited community. Because if you don't know how to treat each other, how do you know how to act?
Naughty.
So what do you guys think about that? So how would you answer that question? Why do we want our communities to have these kinds of behavior expectations? JR, one quick thing, pal, under 30 seconds.
Because we don't want all of our communities to get all riled up and then act bad and hurt each other and say bad things about each other and don't act kind to one another. Because if we have these, we know what we should do and what is wrong and what is right.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't get all riled up and we don't hurt each other. And
So So we're safe.
Safe.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was
That's a
gonna
great
say.
response, JR. Thank you for that. Okay, Julian. And I'm not trying to rush too much, but we do have to get back to class. I want to wrap this up, and I'm going to post this up to Edmodo so you guys can have this. And what I want you to do tonight, if you can, is to go back and listen to our discussion again. We had this discussion, but it's good to listen to yourself and your responses and what we talked about, and make sure you really understand what it means, community and expectation. We're building our base. I'm going to tell you in a moment what we're building for. Go ahead, Julian.
So we can be safe with our words and bodies.
Ooh, that's a great point. With our words and our bodies. So we can be safe with our words and our bodies. That's really good. That's definitely one thing that we want to have these kinds of behaviors. Because if you're safe with your words and you're safe physically with your body, that keeps everybody around you safe, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. And Dan, do you have something to add to the question? Why do we want our communities to have these kinds of behaviors?
Like when you.
Why do we want to? Sorry, Danny. Why do we want to treat each other kindly? Why do we want to be respectful? Why do we want to follow rules? Why do we want to do these things?
Like using inappropriate bodies.
Right? But why do we want to do that? Think about the question. And I'm going to get you guys thinking critically. These questions I ask you are supposed to get your mind spinning. And guess what? This will be posted to Edmodo. Why don't I kind of end it here? And that's a good response, Daniel. But why don't you guys start to think about this? Why do we want our communities to have these kinds of behavior expectations? And why don't you go home tonight? And why don't you talk to mom and dad or whoever's at home? And if you have the internet at home, why don't you sign on and talk to mom and dad? And why don't maybe you guys listen into what we just talked about? And maybe you give a written response on Edmodo. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I'll post this video, and you guys, if you can at home, sign on and give me one sentence at least. I'd like to see 2 sentences. So we'll put it like 1 to. We'll get it. It has to be a 1 minimum, but you can write as much as you want. So I want you to answer that question. Why do we want our communities to have these kinds of expected behaviors? And the expected behaviors are some examples. Treat each other kindly. Be safe. Be respectful. And follow procedures. Those are some examples. Is it just those? No. Those are just a couple examples. Okay. That does cover a lot. Ooh, and let's throw be honest in there.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. I made two.
Okay, guys, class is now ended. Just to give you a preview, we've talked about what a community is. We've talked about an expectation. We're familiar with those words, but tomorrow we'll be ready to create our digital citizen pledge. We'll do something similar to what we did here. We'll record it. Just to give you a preview of things to come, we're going to talk about online communities that you're a part of, so you can maybe start to think about that if you're a part of any online communities. And how are online communities different than offline communities, to make those comparisons, and how are they similar. And then we're going to get into talking about asking you the question, what are some good examples of how you can be a good member of these communities? Okay. And we'll have some key vocabulary. We'll really start to tie in those questions to what this citizen pledge behind me means. And finally, we'll close up. Hopefully we have time tomorrow. And we'll talk about what a pledge is. And we'll make our pledge. And we will sign this up here. And as we use Edmodo and as we work online, because that's really at the heart of what we do. We do everything online. It's a big part of it. We need to make sure that we're responsible digital citizens. That's one of the expectations of the Jameson curriculum. Digital responsibility, and you're gonna learn all about that going forward. But you just get a little taste now of what it means to be a digital citizen. Okay? Give me a thumbs up. That sounds good. Okay, guys, you can head back to class.